In the heart of Providence, where dreams take flight, voices rise, a chorus of the night. We gather around with hearts full of hope to build a future where we all can cope. Let's listen deep to each other's plea, finding common ground. We'll never be free without understanding. Our voices fade. Together we can change what we've been made. Show the talk in the right direction. Guide the path with kindness and clarity. With every word, let's make a better nation. Let's build bridges, not just walls of division. Through the streets and alleys, let's walk in peace. Hand in hand, we'll make a difference. Believe from the city hall to every home. Our voice is strong, we'll turn the tide. In the morning light, let's start anew. With open minds, let's break through. No more hate, no more fear. Together we're stronger, clearer. Let's hear the whispers of the wise, guiding us towards the skies. With every vote, set the pace for a world where everyone can embrace. Show the talk in the right direction. Guide the path with kindness and clarity.
Today's podcast is in regards to Brown University taxes and the $19 million myth of the pilot program. Providence is at a crossroad, and today I'm your host, Mike English. I'm running for mayor of Providence in 2026, and today we're talking about something that directly affects your wallet, your neighborhood, and the future of our city. Brown University doesn't really pay sales tax completely, and they don't pay property tax. And the truth behind it, the so-called $19 million deal, they only pay about $9 to $10 million out of that deal. Now, you might have seen the headlines that does that spin, the historical agreement. Brown steps up, Providence gets $19 million. Sounds great, right? But when you peel back the layers, here's what you actually find. If Brown University paid full property tax, it would owe around $49 to $50 million every single year to the city of Providence. But it's a nonprofit organization, and there's some protections against that. But instead, because Brown is a nonprofit, it pays far less through voluntary agreements, what some call the pilot payment in lieu of taxes. And to make the number look bigger, the city bundles it in the state taxpayer money and community contributions and sells it to you as a big win. So today, I want to walk you through the whole theory of this. First, what Brown would pay in full property taxes versus what it actually pays. How the state pilot program means that taxpayers across Rhode Island are subsidizing Brown's tax breaks. Who pays when there are non-peaceful protesters or riots that require heavy police response on the Brown campus or there around? And why I believe the current mayor is misleading voters about how good this deal really is. This isn't about being anti-student or anti-education. It's about fairness, honesty, and respect for the people who live here in Providence and pays the bills. Brown, as a nonprofit, again, makes the Providence community lose about $49 million a year in property taxes. Brown University is a nonprofit educational institution, and under Rhode Island laws and federal laws, that means the building they use for education, dorms, classroom, labs, and libraries, are exempt from local property taxes. They do pay some taxes on certain commercial properties, but the core of the campus, the big money, is tax exempt. Now, the city of Providence has done the math. If Brown's properties were fully taxable, like your house or a business, Brown would be looking at around $49 to $50 million a year in property taxes. That's the ballpark. That's what we're talking about when we say full freight. But Brown doesn't pay that. Instead, they have a voluntary agreement with the city where they say we're tax exempt, but we'll chip in something so the city doesn't collapse under the weight of all these untaxed properties. And here's the key point. What Brown actually pays is direct cash to the city is nowhere near $49 to $50 million a year. It's closer to a single digit. And then they stack on the community contributions. And the state money to make the total look of the contribution to be bigger than what it really is. So if you're a Providence homeowner, ask yourself, why am I paying full freight on my property tax bill? Why are small businesses paying full freight? And why is multi-billion-dollar institutes paying a fraction of what it owes if it were treated like everybody else? That's the fairness question. Now, what the mayor says versus what reality of being paid, let's talk about it. This so-called $19 million number and the way it's being sold to you, you'll hear the phrase like Brown and other universities will contribute $19 million a year. This is a historical increase. This is a big win for Providence. Now, here's how the magic trick works. The direct cash from Brown, the voluntary cash payment to the city, are in the single digits. Millions per year, roughly about $8 to $9 million in average over 20 years. When you actually look at that schedule, it's real money. I'll give them credit for that. but it's not 19 million. Community contributions, in-kind stuff, to reach the higher number, they added the community program, Brown control, things like scholarships, certain services, partnerships. These have values, yes, but they're not the same thing as property tax revenue that goes straight into the city's general fund to fix roads, fund schools, and pay the police and fire. The state pilot funds your money, not Brown University's, separate from Brown's voluntary payment. The state of Rhode Island has a pilot program that sends money to cities like Providence to help make up for tax-exempt institutions. That money does not come out of Brown's budget. It comes out of your state tax dollars from people all over Rhode Island. So when politicians stand up and brag about $19 million, what they're doing is mixing Brown's cash, mixing Brown's in-kind contributions, and mixing the state subsidized payment from the taxpayers together. And then presenting that bundle as if Brown is writing one big historic check. If I did that in business, people would say I was cooking the books. As your mayor, I'm not going to be playing that game. I'm going to show you clear and simple what Brown would pay under full taxation, what Brown is actually paying in cash, and what's coming from the state, and what's being carried by the Providence homeowners and small businesses. Because you deserve the truth, not headlines. What's this mean for your taxes in your neighborhoods? You might be thinking, okay, Mike, I get that Brown isn't paying full taxes, but how does that hit me? Let's talk about it then. If Brown is leaving $40 million plus on the table every year by not paying full taxes, the city still has a bill to pay. We still have to fund the police, the fire, and still have to plow the snow and fill the potholes. We still have to pay for the schools, trash, the infrastructure, not to mention the pension that nobody wants to look at. So what happens? Your property tax stays high. Your small business gets squeezed. Because landlords pass along costs as well to their tenants. And the city continues to limp along, barely fixing roads, schools, and public safety. Meanwhile, Brown has a massive endowment and is constantly building, expanding, and investing in itself. And that's fine. They're doing what's best for them. The problem is, who's doing what's best for the people of Providence? When the mayor oversells this deal, he creates an illusion that Brown is now doing its part and that the city's financial problems are solved. They're not. I want you to look at your own situation. Are your property taxes going down? The answer is absolutely not. Do you see a fully funded school system? Are the roads suddenly perfect? Are we suddenly out of the pension crisis that we haven't even looked at? So, if the deal was really historic, if it was really a game-changing, you'd start to see relief and real investment But you're not seeing that. That's why I'm saying the story you're being told does not match the reality you're living. Now we should look at also the riots, the protests. Who pays when things go wrong at our schools in Providence? Now let's talk about it. Another piece of this, the non-peaceful protests and riots connected to Brown. Let me be very clear. I believe in free speech. I believe in the right to protest. If a student wants to raise their voice, march, hold signs, that is part of democracy. That's not the issue here. The issue is when things stop being peaceful and start becoming destructive. Building gets vandalized, streets are blocked off, police have to respond in large numbers, overtime bills skyrocket, public property gets damaged, like a few weeks ago when they jumped on some guy's car while he was driving down the street, over 1,000 people, and I believe only one arrest, even though cops were there while it was happening. Who pays for that? Right now, for the most part, it's the Providence taxpayers. It's the homeowners on Chalkstone. It's the small business owners on North Main Street. It's the families that already feel stretched thin across Providence. If an event is clearly tied to Brown's campus, or Brown students, or a Brown-sponsored action, and it turns non-peaceful, then here's my position on it. Brown should be financially responsible for the extra costs it creates for the city. That means if there's a big police response with overtime, Brown should help cover that full bill. If the public property is damaged, Brown should help pay for the repairs if a student has been caught. If a student has been implicated but not convicted, then Brown should still pay the full cost. And when individual students are found responsible for vandalism or violence, there should be a real consequences and restitution both for the student and the school. This is not about punishing peaceful protests. It's about saying if your institution activities spill into the streets and cause real financial damage, you don't just hide behind tax-exempt status and let the city eat the cost. If you want to be considered a partner in the city, then you share in the cost, not just the credit. Now, how's the mayor fudging this deal? I want to talk directly about the leadership now. When the current mayor rolled this deal out, the message was simple, historic, huge, incredible. We did it. Lots of big numbers, lots of praise, lots of press conferences. Here's the problem. The $19 million, that headline, blend together different types of money, the cash, the in-kind, and the state subsidize. And let's people assume it's all Brown University stepping up to the plate. The actual Brown cash going into the city budget is smaller than the headlines implied. And the deal still leaves us tens of millions of dollars short every year of what Brown would pay if it were fully taxed. To me, that's fudging the reality. If not an outright lie, but it's a carefully crafted half-truth that makes the major look like a hero while regular residents keep carrying the burden. If I'm your mayor, I'm not interested in the photo op victorious. I'm interested in the real victories that show up in your life. Lower pressures on the property taxes, better funded schools, a safer street, a stronger infrastructure that requires honest negotiation with Brown and the other big players, not just a press conference and a headline. Would I do different as mayor? Well, if you're listening and thinking, all right, Mike, what would you do about it? Let me lay it out. If I'm elected mayor, here's how I'd approach Brown and other large tax-exempt institutions in Providence. Radical transparency. I'll publish a simple breakdown every resident can understand. Here is what Brown would pay if fully taxed. Here is the actual number Brown is paying in cash each year. Here is what we get from the state of Rhode Island pilot program. And here is the gap, the pot being carried by Providence homeowners and businesses. No spin, no bundling everything together to make the number look bigger, just the truth. A real negotiation target. I treat the $49.50 million as the true benchmark of Brown's fair share obligation. We might not reach that overnight, but we're going to negotiate with that number in mind, not with a tiny fraction of it. That means working towards a long-term plan where Brown's direct contribution climbs significantly closer to what an ordinary property owner would pay. Not a little bump, a real adjustment. Now, cost sharing for non-peaceful events. I'd insist on formal agreements that say when there's a Brown-related protest or an event that turns non-peaceful and triggers a big police response or rescue or fire, Brown reimburses the city for those extra costs. When there's damage to the city or our residents' property, Brown helps pay for the repairs. When individuals are responsible, there are real consequences and restitutions. If you want the benefits of being in Providence, you have to share the responsibility of being in Providence too. Respect for residents first. I'm going to put people who live here year-round first. The families watching their tax bill. The elderly on fixed incomes. The small businesses who can't move their campus to another state. Brown can thrive. I don't want to hurt Brown. But Brown should thrive with us, not on our backs. Let me wrap this up. If you take nothing else from this episode, take this. The story you're being told about Brown and the historical deal does not match the financial reality on the ground in Providence. Brown would owe around $49 to $50 million a year if it were taxed like everyone else. Brown actually gives a much lower cash payment. The $19 million number mixes in with taxpayers' money and in-kind contributions, which are not the same as property tax revenue. And when protesters turn non-peaceful and cost the city money, the bill falls on you, the taxpayer, not on Brown. You deserve a mayor who tells you the truth about these agreements. A mayor who negotiates with the big players on behalf of you, not for the headlines. And a city government that stops pretending a small improvement is some giant miracle. If you believe Providence deserves better, then I'm asking you to Vote for me in September and talk about this with your neighbors. Share this episode. Ask your elected officials to show you the actual breakdown, what Brown pays, what the state pays, and what you pay. And if you want to follow my campaign, you can go to EnglishForMayor.com. There you'll see more about my plans for fairness in taxation, safer streets, real accountability for big institutions, and a Providence that works for the people who actually call it home. I'm Mike English, and I'm a candidate for Providence Mayor 2026. And this is the English Providence Voters Show. I will see you again tomorrow. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you again, like I said, tomorrow.